Hello everybody. So today in 10 minutes I'm going to try to summarise Amber Heard's appeal. Now if you want to see a longer version you can head on over to the Real Laura B's channel. She did a 2.5 hour version. I've listened to some of that. I haven't got all the way through it yet. And also you could read the actual appeal. All 68 pages of it is available on Laura B's channel. She got a freedom of information, I believe that's what they had to get the actual appeal brief, because Amber Heard's side did not make it public. So they had to pay to get that, or had to go through some process. Not sure how much, could have been $5,000, that would be my guess, not sure. Now, Laura B, of course, is not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Andrea Burkhart, who got the other set of notes about all the ins and outs of the trial, is a lawyer. Neither Laura B nor Andrea Burkhart are Johnny Depp fans. They've been, of course, anyone that disagrees with Amber Heard, according to Amber Heard's side, is a Johnny Depp fan. But I'd argue that anybody who's an actual Johnny Depp fan probably wasn't following the trial. I certainly, if I was a fan of someone, I wouldn't be able to follow a trial that was involved with them. I'm not a Johnny Depp fan. I don't mind the guy. I consider him kind of average as far as major Hollywood movie stars. It's not terrible, not good. I can name just as many people that are better than him in Hollywood as I can that are worse. Certainly not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but not amazing. So I'm not a fan of his. I'm kind of neutral towards him. And I only follow some trials, I don't follow all of them. So I'm going to just try in 10 minutes to give you guys just a summary of it. So I'm going to start by saying, right, so 68 pages and they go over 16 assignments of error and a whole lot of other stuff. They managed to do it in 68 pages. Now they were given 55 pages, but they've got 68. But that's because 13 of those pages don't count. So you have, I think it's 11 pages of introduction and 2 pages of signature. None of that counts. So actually 68 pages if you want to wade through it. That's A4 size. And look, if anyone who's looked at Johnny Depp's one, 42 pages, and that's including all the different stuff, you would see how professional it looks. It reads like if you were marking them. Let's just imagine that you're a school teacher at whatever level and you're marking them, you're going, Johnny Depp, oh my goodness, this is perfect, brilliant, easy to follow, 10 out of 10, 20 out of 20, 100 out of 100, perfect marks with everything. Now the legal argument might not be completely perfect, but it's very good, very well explained and very convincing. Then you look at Amber Heard's and you go, oh my God, who did this? And this is we got to remember, this is a professional, proper legal counsel. These are high-powered, highly paid barristers, and they are also appeals specialists. I have no doubt whatsoever that they could do the same standard as Johnny Depp's team or higher, but they didn't. And we've got to always remember, when we deal with lawyers at any stage of proceedings, they have an angle. They have a tactic that they're going for. And I felt some time ago that the tactic that Amber Heard's team would do, and it certainly looked like they were doing, was for publicity. They want to excite the media attention. They want to have it so that it looks like, oh no, I would have appealed if only I had enough money. I would have won if only I had enough money. And that seemed to be the legal tactic that they were doing. They put in 16 assignments of error, which is far more than they should be putting in, weakens their case significantly, and they just rambled on about nonsense, aiming to delay things. They've even delayed things like with the side case, if you like, against the insurance companies. And we've got to remember, one of the insurance companies is paying for the whole thing. That's Travellers. So why does she care about New York Marine, who refused to pay $1 million? Her legal fees are a lot more than $1 million. The other side's paying for everything but $1 million. Why doesn't she just foot that $1 million bill? So that seems to be a delaying tactic to me, that, you know, you've got enough money, you don't need this, you could just accept it and just pay them back, but she just won't. And it seems to me as if that's a delaying tactic. It's delaying this, it's all about delaying so that, and the thing is, when people do delaying tactics in court, it's often because, well, it's not always because they're guilty. But I mean, I've seen cases, particularly civil cases, and this is a civil case we have to remember, where you have two companies that will sue each other back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it can go for 20 years. And neither side wants to lose, but they don't really care if they don't win. So they just pay the lawyer fees, and the lawyers are getting $100,000 a year or more. And you know, just from the occasional appearances of this case, they could get $1 million a year. And both sides do not want a guilty verdict. They do not want a verdict. They're okay if it comes up with not guilty for them and guilty for the other side, but when you get guilty on both sides and there's corruption and all that, they just keep it going on and on and on and on and on. And there are many cases like that. And the courts are clogged up with these sorts of things. And when you have a case like that, the lawyers will be instructed to deliberately delay things as much as humanly possible. And if you're ever involved in, you know, having to report all of that, and I've had the misfortune of having to report on those sorts of awful cases, you'll often find people giving witnesses and saying, I just don't remember. I don't know. I don't remember. They say, do you remember what your name is? I don't know. I don't remember. And you get these sort of things. And unfortunately, these sorts of trials are very common, particularly in the civil system. Criminal doesn't get quite as clogged up with these sorts of things, but civil can. And you get people who know that they're guilty and know that a guilty verdict will really hurt them. They just do not want that to finish. And so if Amber Heard is thinking she's guilty, she's going to have to pay, she's going to have her entire life ruined, her tactic could be to delay it as much as humanly possible. I mean, if you look at her appeal, I'm not going to get into the merits of it, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty, but it is reading extremely unprofessional. And you are dealing with high-powered, higher-paid appeals barristers who know what they're doing, who could do as good a job as Johnny Depp or better. And they haven't. Why haven't they? Why haven't they done that? Why have they had this complete mess that's impossible to follow? I mean, maybe judges could work it out. But if you're a judge, what are you going to do? Are you going to go, oh my God, how am I going to make sense of this? Are they going to do that? Or are they just going to go, oh, stuff it? I mean, judges would have dealt with this sort of nonsense before. They would be able to see that this is a delay tactic. This is not a legitimate appeal. And I'll say that now. Why would she bother? And the thing is, and I've learnt this, I didn't know this myself until I was taught it, but according to Law and Crime, they said Virginia now has a right to appeal in their court system. So you don't have to ask to have it appealed, because normally if you ask to have it appealed, they'll say no 20 times out of 21, you know, almost every time. And there's no way they'd say yes to this appeal. They wouldn't even hear it. But in Virginia, they hear every appeal no matter what. So, and it apparently doesn't even cost her anything to do it, except for the lawyer fees. And of course, Travelers Insurance are paying for all that. So she could be just going, yeah, okay, that's fine. She's got this big thing where all these women's rights activists are all supporting her. And this is all a publicity stunt, essentially. This appeal is not aimed at winning. She's not trying to win the appeal. And I noticed at the end of it, it said there, now you're meant to say one thing for your remedy. And you can have an alternate and as many alternates as you want. But she didn't say it as an alternate. So she said in her conclusion, she said, I'd like it to be that the court grants the appeal, changes the verdict to Amber Heard's favour. Or they could have it so that it's in nobody's favour, or just reduce the amount. And now, they're not listed in the proper way. So in the proper way, you'd say in the alternate, and you'd make it very clear that you want one as your preferred and the other one only if they fail with that. But she's sort of making it sound like, oh, they're all equally happy with either of them. And the thing is, if you're a judge and you're looking at that, what are you going to do? You're going to redo the whole thing and say, all right, well, in spite of all the evidence, I'm going to grant it to Amber Heard? No way. Are you going to say, all right, in spite of all the evidence, I'm going to just nullify all of Johnny Depp's thing, when they haven't really even argued it properly? No chance. Or are they going to go, all right, in spite of all the evidence, I'm going to change the amount for Johnny Depp? And I think what they'll probably do is they'll look at that and go, well, Johnny Depp's asked to remove that $2 million he has to pay back. She's asked for a change in the money. We can deal with that. So the judges might well go there and say, hey, that's a lot easier to deal with. And they want things to be easy. They don't want to have difficult work. Goodness. So they're going to go there and say, okay, well, the jury said 15 million, but because of Virginian law, we had to cut that down to 10.35. Let's restore it as 15 million and just have it all as damages, none as punitive damage. There you go, simple, fixed. We've made them both happy, and we can remove the charge against Johnny Depp because that has no merit to stick. Simple, everybody's happy, appeal done, boom. And there's a good chance that's what will happen. I mean, I'm not going over the merits of her appeal. I already went over that previously. I don't know. Look, let's have some big fancy lawyer look at it. But seriously, this was a mess, and I'd say it's deliberately a mess. This is not aimed at getting a good mark. This is not aimed at appealing to the kindness of the court. It's not even aimed at appealing to media. Media are not running with this story. I couldn't see any media outlet having run it. It's been a whole day. They would have by now if they were going to. They haven't. They're not interested. This is just an absolute disaster. And it's quite clearly aimed at wasting the court's time. It's aimed at delaying things for as long as possible, annoying the judges, and just annoying everyone. They will hear the appeal. They will hear it from Johnny Depp's side. Whether they bother with Amber Heard's side, I think they're compelled to, but they will not pay much attention to that. Anyway, that's it from me. Bye-bye.